Now on BBC Two, even as the scientific knowledge grew, the oil industry continued to block action to tackle climate change. Big Oil versus the world continues with some strong language.
Exxon knew. I can tell honestly that Exxon knew.
So this was a model from 1982 with startlingly accurate projections into the present
That's
day.
correct.
They realized that it was going to be an existential threat to their business.
Those decades of deception have created a delay in our own understanding of the issue that is irrecoverable. We can never get that time back.
These kinds of events will become more frequent and probably more intense as a result of human-induced global warming.
The UN says this is a code red for humanity.
Absolutely certain that generations from now, we will be able to look back and tell our children that this was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal.
This was a big moment when President Obama was elected. Came in with a mandate. He campaigned on this and he got people excited about this. There was no sneaking this issue past anybody. This was on everyone's radar. Everyone knew it was coming. We thought we were part of making history.
I ask this Congress to send me legislation that places a market-based cap on carbon pollution and drives the production of more renewable energy in America. That's what we need.
The president began pushing a climate bill that would radically reduce carbon emissions, known as the Cap and Trade Bill.
Koch Industries has been called the biggest company you never heard of. The sprawling giant includes pipelines, petrochemicals, asphalt plants, trading floors. Based in Wichita, Kansas, it sells everything from gasoline to beef.
In 2009, Koch Industries is the second largest privately held company in the United States, whose annual sales are bigger than that of Goldman Sachs, U.S. Steel, and Facebook combined.
Koch's core business is distribution. It owns 37,000 miles of international pipeline.
Koch is just deeply embedded in the fossil fuel infrastructure. It trades, ships, and transports natural gas, oil, gasoline. So when you think about anything that would reduce demand or increase the price for fossil fuels, it's a tremendous threat to Koch's business.
Koch Industries was owned by two brothers, David, who died in 2019, and Charles.
This was a moment when the potential for passing climate change regulation was more real than it has ever been in U.S. history. Full stop. That's why you saw the Koch political machine kick into high gear.
Hoffman was given the job of assessing what the climate bill would mean for Koch Industries. He met with a team of senior Koch lobbyists.
I was invited to this meeting. The discussion quickly turned from the possibility that this bill might pass and what we should be doing to prepare for it, to a discussion about how we're going to prevent it from passing, who are vulnerable Republicans that we need to target to make sure that they don't vote for this bill. We cannot let this bill pass. We won't let this bill pass, and we have to do everything in our power to prevent it from passing.
Welcome to Americans for Prosperity Foundation.
The Koch brothers poured money into the effort to kill the bill. The right-wing advocacy group Americans for Prosperity spearheaded the effort.
5 years ago, my brother Charles and I provided the funds to start the Americans for Prosperity. And it's beyond my wildest dreams how AFP has grown into this enormous organization.
Backed with Koch money, AFP had begun rallying opposition on the ground across the country.
Today's axis of evil is the Communist Chinese Party, American woke activism, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Those three elements together are designed to drive down America's productivity. That's what's at stake. It became very obvious that the Republican Party was not prepared or willing to fight the fight. So we had a multifaceted, hard-hitting approach, pressuring Republicans who were weak-kneed and Democrats who were vulnerable, whose states would be impacted by this. If you're gonna go into a war like this was, the first thing you need to do is get your troops marching, get them energized. And that's what we did in that summer.
This was a volatile time in American life. We had just had the biggest economic collapse since the Depression. The Tea Party movement was animated by a lot of genuine political passion. Koch very cunningly stepped in and channeled that energy to Koch's end. Koch took that passion and also told these people, oh, hey, by the way, the government is trying to regulate greenhouse gases, which is another form of socialist tyranny, and they're trying to take your country away from you.
We're gonna kill the bill!
We stopped the bill from even going to a vote in the US Senate. So it died its own death. And at that point, everybody knew it was over. Back to the drawing board for the progressive left.
But the Kochs didn't stop there. They now set about removing from office any Republican politicians who'd previously supported climate action by backing rival Republican candidates.
Global warming. It's all a hoax.
You get your just desserts.
This is where you saw the perfection of the primary strategy, whereby Koch would give money to a primary opponent to take out a congressperson that had crossed Koch on climate change.
Later that year, Republicans won a historic majority in the midterm elections. Many of the victorious candidates had signed an Americans for Prosperity pledge, opposing climate change legislation.
The achievement of 2010, the newly elected Republicans, the vast majority of which signed our carbon pledge, was to put an end to that whole climate change argument since then till now. It's been a dead issue.
Are you proud of what Americans for Prosperity has achieved this year in the election?
You bet I am. Man, oh man. We're going to do more, too, in the next couple of years, you know?
The very research centers that we assume to be independent are being funded by the very industry that they're supposed to be critically investigating. This high-profile MIT report trumpets the alleged benefits of methane gas and fracking while downplaying their downsides.
The basic discussion was methane emissions couldn't possibly be as high as we said.
I had never been a co-author of a paper that created a political firestorm and a scientific firestorm.
The fuel industry has a history of doing what they need to protect their interests. And you know, they can be ruthless. That's a fact.
The Cornell professors were criticized by other universities, including the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. That year, the influential MIT Energy Initiative published a study on the future of natural gas, mainly funded by Aubrey McClendon's Clean Skies Foundation.
The future natural gas study at MIT, I think we were ahead of the curve in talking about the forthcoming shale gas revolution. Methane emissions are a very important greenhouse gas that needs to be addressed. It's just that methane emissions from the oil and gas industry are actually a minority of methane emissions. Fortunately, in contrast to carbon dioxide, methane has a relatively short lifetime in the atmosphere. That doesn't mean one should ignore it. It means that one better eliminate new emissions.
The study promoted gas as a bridge fuel to a lower carbon future. It also criticized the Cornell methane report as unsubstantiated. Ernest Moniz insists industry funding did not influence these conclusions.
The point is, we always believe in transparency, and so that's, yeah.
The funding was part of a wider strategy by the fossil fuel industry. By 2012, oil and gas companies were pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into departments at prestigious academic institutions across America.
Would you be happy to talk about generally who funded the MIT Energy Initiative, not necessarily that report?
Let's just end the interview, okay? I mean, if you want to paint that as some kind of black spot, well, go ahead. Ridiculous, totally ridiculous. Look at the output, not the input. It's very disappointing, to be perfectly honest.
Moniz would become Energy Secretary in Barack Obama's second term, where he helped advocate for the natural gas boom. Bolstered by the MIT study, the industry narrative on natural gas took hold in Washington. It became part of President Obama's 2012 State of the Union address, where he unveiled his new energy policy.
We have a supply of natural gas that can last America nearly 100 years. And my administration will take every possible action to safely develop this energy.
Instead of helping the public awareness of the harm and what was happening, they just glossed over all of that, and everyone became super excited about this cheap, clean energy that was going to last 100 years. It's maddening.
Because America will develop this resource without putting the health and safety of our citizens at risk.
We didn't take the alternative path of drastically increasing investment in renewables.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
It should have happened in the Obama years. And we've exacerbated the climate change problem for 10 years when we could have been diminishing it.
Doing something for the first time, taking advantage of this new resource, you don't always know what you don't know. And over time, what we learned about methane emissions as it relates to natural gas is very, very scary. I think the Obama administration tried to be very conscious of all the implications of the shale revolution. Did it turn out we had it wrong? Absolutely. But at the time, we didn't know that it was wrong, and it's not like we didn't have some of the best scientific minds in the country working on that.
For more than 150 years, oil and gas has played a critical role in our society, improving human lives, raising standards of living, and enabling unprecedented economic growth.